There is a ton of value in current underdog playoff best ball ADP. Elite offenses like the Rams are easy to stack. Take advantage of uncertainty and start drafting now. Use the promo code SEEK for up to $100 match on your first deposit. And subscribe to Heat Seeker Sports on YouTube for underdog strategy and drafting shows. Hey, what's up, guys? And welcome to Gamescript. That promo cut off short a little bit early. I wasn't expecting that. Welcome to another episode of Gamescript, looking at the Los Angeles Rams versus the Detroit Lions. Got a 51.5 point total with the Detroit Lions as 3-point favorites in this one. And it should be a really good game. This is probably one of the best games in the wild card round, if not the best game in the wild card round. Actually, it's probably the best game in the wild card round. And we got two high-powered offenses going up against each other, and the defenses are kind of lacking, but it should be a good matchup in general. I think these teams have a lot of similarities between them. Before we get into this breakdown with Spread Astaire, make sure to hit the like button, looking for 15 likes so I can put out a shorter video a little bit later on, and make sure to subscribe to the YouTube page. So far, I have almost 400 subscribers. I'm at about 375 or something like that. So only need 25 more subscribers to hit that 400 number before the end of the season. In addition to that, I'm running a promotion with Underdog, where if you use the promo code SEEK, S-E-E-K, when you sign up for a new account, they will match you up to $100 on your first deposit. So go over to Underdog and make sure to do that. And if you have been watching the content recently, all the Underdog shows that I've done, and I've done some with Spread too, then you know that I have a huge lean on the Los Angeles Rams in this game. And I brought on Spread to help break this game down today. Spread, what's going on, man?
Man, I'm excited about this game. You mentioned it from a fan's perspective, from the high scoring perspective. This is the most exciting one. And even for the casual fan, the storylines are intact as well, as these two quarterbacks were traded for each other. And you can say it's been a win-win trade. The Los Angeles Rams needed a slight upgrade at quarterback in order to push themselves over the hump. The Detroit Lions needed a reset, and they got a young quarterback who they could develop along with some draft picks to augment the people around him. So now, right, as both teams have felt that they did well in this trade, we get to find out who the ultimate winner is when the two teams face off. So there's storylines abound here as Matt Stafford returns to Detroit to take on the Lions.
Yeah, it's two very good revenge narratives. If you're into revenge narratives, with Jared Goff going against Sean McVay, who wrote him off, and Matthew Stafford going against the Detroit Lions, who were kind of they kind of treat their players like crap historically. Calvin Johnson, a good friend of Matthew Stafford, and obviously one of the guys who benefited a lot from Matthew Stafford as a quarterback, was when he retired, they made him pay back like $1.6 million in a bonus or something like that. So, like good revenge narratives here on both sides. And then, like I was talking about, like the whole thing with Jared Goff is interesting, Spread, because Sean McVay is one of the best, play callers in the league. And he knows what Jared Goff's weaknesses are, and he can communicate that to the defensive coordinator in this game. And I think that's a pretty big edge. But what do you think on the edge on where we might see these revenge?
Yeah, you have to agree. There's a reason that McVay felt that Goff wasn't going to be able to get him the title. There's certain weaknesses, and those weaknesses are going to be something that he's trying to exploit. The big question here is how much of Goff's development under the new prize coordinator, Ben Johnson, did Ben Johnson make Goff a different player? Has he coached some of these mistakes out of him? Or, as a lot of people think, under pressure, is he going to revert to some of those same qualities that McVay gave up on him for? So the way that I handicap it is, it can only be an edge to McVay. So to me, there's really only two possibilities. Number one, Goff is not the same player that he was. And, the little tidbits that McVay is going to be able to give his defensive coordinator are really irrelevant at this point, in which case it's a wash, or he's really going to help. So it just seems to be, it can only be an advantage here to the Rams if it does exist at all. So, and we'll find out early whether or not it does, because both these teams, Simon, come out strong. Both these teams have excellent first drive percentages with not only scoring, but getting into the end zone. So if the Rams are able to give him problems early, that could be an issue. I also want to say these both teams are really good on their first drives. If it's 7-7 after 2 drives, don't go rush to live bet the over. Things might slow down when they get out of their script.
Yeah, that's a good call, dude. And another thing with these teams as well is Jared Goff plays really well against the type of defense that Detroit runs. At the same time, he struggles under pressure. He plays really well under the defense that the Rams run. Actually, he struggles under pressure though. And with Aaron Donald on the other side of the ball, the Rams don't generate a ton of pressure, but maybe they do some adjustments so they're able to create some pressure in this game and help that struggle for Jared Goff potentially in this game. But other than pressure, Goff is seemingly in a pretty good matchup against this defense, which caters mainly to Goff's strengths. So we'll break down this matchup real quick here. Spread, is there anything that you want to point out, like as far as individual matchups or players that you think stand out?
I think the first thing we have to start with is the questionable status of Sam LaPorta and how much he's meant to that offense. Right, Simon? And when we're building this today, I think the first thing we need to do is assume that he's not going to be play or he's going to be severely limited, and then decide where do those targets go. I think that could be the difference on this slate. When we look at the Rams side, I feel that our target projections are going to be fairly secure, right? Obviously, they're projections, and they could be wrong. And Nacua, could get all the targets if he's just destroying his man in one-on-one, and Stafford sees no reason to go away from him. But my overall theory there is that the targets that we've seen all season from this team will continue, the target share percentages. On the Lions side, this could be completely up in the air. If LaPorta's out, that takes your second highest targeted player on the receiving core. And now where are those targets going to go? Who would you think, if LaPorta does miss or is severely limited, who do you think that this gives an upgrade to? Because I think those are the players we should be targeting because most likely they're going to be the ones that are underpriced.
I think there's 2 different parts of this that we have to look at. And I think one of those parts, I believe it was Rich Rebar who mentioned in an article that once last year they traded Hawkinson, the Lions started throwing a lot more to their running backs. And they weren't throwing to their running backs a lot while Hawkinson was playing, but when he was traded, they started targeting their running backs a lot more. And it's kind of been the same thing this year. They haven't really targeted their running backs all that much, but now with LaPorta out, I think one of the biggest beneficiaries is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. If LaPorta is actually ruled out, then this is going to be a good impact on Gibbs. Because if you look at his targets in general, he's had a few games where he had like a lot of targets, but generally he gets like 1 to 3 targets, maybe maybe a max of 4. He had a stretch of a decent amount of targets, but I think that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a big beneficiary if LaPorta is out. And I also think that Reynolds is going to be a big beneficiary too, because I think he is the guy that gets the most upgrade in targets once LaPorta is no longer in the game. I'm trying to find him here. It's Josh Reynolds, but I'm trying to find out what his price is. Let's see.
Oh, okay. Reynolds is at, let's see, we'll just go to flex. I don't think we're going to Josh Reynolds captain, are we? Well, you can have some
No,
fun with
no,
that.
no.
On the flex, he's at 5K.
Yeah. So 5K.
So he's the highest right under our 3 backup quarterbacks or 4 backup quarterbacks that we never ever roster.
Right.
So he's right in there with Badgley, the kicker, Jameson Williams. I mean, the Lions defense is 1,200 less, but I think that's going to be right around the decision we're making. And then, of course, Khalif Raymond, who is also questionable, and I don't expect him to play.
Yeah.
I think, Simon, I wouldn't mind operating the assumption that LaPorta misses. When I saw that injury last week, I'm surprised he's even listed as questionable. I thought he was just going to be rolled out for sure.
Same. Yeah, I'm kind of the same mindset. And I think that Khalif Raymond being out also benefits Reynolds a decent amount too. And then Jameson Williams, I think, will benefit from those injuries as well. I think for the LaPorta targets, I would think that most of those are going to go to Jahmyr Gibbs and Reynolds. And then maybe for Khalif Raymond and like a portion of those deeper targets, Jameson Williams is obviously going to benefit from that. And Williams seems to be off the injury report this week, so that's a good thing. He practiced fully on Wednesday. He had an ankle injury or an ankle issue that he was dealing with for the last couple weeks. So that's good that he's not on the injury report this week.
All right.
So spread. If we're looking at this matchup, I think, like in my opinion, like this seems like it could go, a multiple different ways. I think it could be a shootout, given the lack of basically weaknesses in the defense. Because if you're looking at Detroit, the Rams are giving up 25.3 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. So that's going to benefit, I think, Puka Nacua, or I'm sorry, on the Detroit side, it's going to benefit Jameson Williams a lot. On the Rams side, Detroit is giving up 24.8 DraftKings points a game to the slot, and that obviously benefits Cooper Kupp a lot. But are there any particular guys that you want to launch off with captain here that you think that we could kind of begin this build with?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting way to approach the slate. When I'm seeing this, I was surprised here that our quarterbacks aren't at the top here when we're looking at pricing. Hold on, did my computer freeze? So let's say we're doing a Rams win build. And my computer's freezing. I'm sorry. How much is just starting with Matt Stafford?
Stafford is 9,800 for his salary in the flex. So if we pop him in, then we're left. Yeah, we're left with about 8K per position if we throw Stafford in there.
So what do you think? Okay, so now I got my computer wasn't frozen. I had it to only look at Detroit players. That's why when we were looking up the other two guys. That's why I didn't see these guys. Okay, so I noticed that Puka Nacua and Kyren Williams are both priced ahead of Stafford. Cooper Kupp is $300 less when you're looking at the captain slot. Let's start with the Rams build. I kind of like Stafford. You have the two obvious weapons, right? Unlike on the other side where St. Brown is by far the number one guy, and I can see him outscoring Goff. If we get an even distribution here, Stafford seems like he'd be the best play. My concern is, have you done projections for ownership? Am I going to be too chalky if I start with Stafford and captain?
Well, let's take a look real quick. I don't have any of my main. Yeah, no, I don't have any projections in yet. I haven't seen anything pop up just yet as far as captain ownership or ownership in general in the showdown slates. But I would think, though, that we'd be pretty safe with assuming that Stafford might be around like 10%, because there's so many offensive weapons on this slate between Brown and St. Brown and Nacua and even Williams and Kupp. that I think it's a pretty safe bet that we can expect some of this ownership to be spread around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to go with Stafford and the captain and try that out?
Yeah, I think it's a fun way to start.
Okay, let's go with that.
All right. And then I think in every lineup we build, if it has Stafford, you're going to have to choose a receiver, right? We don't want to do both, do we?
Yeah, I think we definitely want to choose Kupp or Nacua in every, at least one of those guys in every Stafford captain build.
Okay, let's do Nacua this round.
Okay.
Do you feel we hamstring ourselves too much if we add Kyren?
I think we might, but let's try it out.
All right, so if we do that, we are at 14.7 total, 4,900 per person. So we're going to have to start scrolling down here. In this build, who would we want to run it back with from the Lions' perspective?
I think given the injuries, I think if we're looking for salary relief, Reynolds makes a perfect guy for a build like this and gives us a little bit of salary relief too.
All right, yeah, and then, we're pretty much right on there. Now we have 48.50 for our last two people. So when we're looking here at the bottom, do we want to go balanced and just grab two guys right around 4K, or should we dumpster dive and try and get someone higher? When I'm looking here at these low prices, there's not a lot of names that stick out to me. I would say the lowest player that I'm interested in is Skowronek at 1,200, but I don't necessarily even love him. Maybe. Oh, actually, hold on. If LaPorta's out, isn't Brock Wright just a lock?
I don't know if I'd call him a lock, but he's what's his price at? Brock Wright
2K.
At 2K. I think he got a decent amount of work last year. Let's check out something real quick. I'm going to go to Pro Football Reference real quick. Spread, why don't you break down what you're thinking on Brock Wright here?
So here's the issue. Brock Wright is not going to take the LaPorta role. Let's say he does assume most of the snaps. He could be blocking on a lot of them. He hasn't shown necessarily the ability to be an effective receiver. That was one of the reasons people were so high on LaPorta in best ball, was that it felt like he was competing with two blocking tight ends. So the thing is, at 2K, how much does he need to pay off? And that allows us to be a little more creative. Although, to be fair, let's say we put him at 2K, we're landing right around David Montgomery, which I don't know. We might be better off being balanced. I might rather. So, like, if we're doing the 2v2, right, it would be like Wright and Montgomery versus both kickers. I think I'd rather have both kickers, don't you?
Yeah, I'd rather have both kickers, but also I think we can consider Jameson Williams here because just he's at 4,200, and that matchup that I was saying earlier, where the Rams are giving up 25.3 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. That really benefits Jameson Williams. In addition, if Khalif Raymond is out, then that's going to benefit.
Which
Jameson
I wouldn't be
Williams.
surprised if he misses.
Right.
Everything I'm read doesn't expect him to play.
Same, yeah. So let's pop him in there. That leaves us with 55K, and that puts us in DeMarcus Robinson. And we need a second receiver for Stafford. I don't know what you think about. What do you think about that?
Second receiver for Stafford, or throw a kicker in?
We could throw a kicker in. One thing that I'll say with these kickers is both of these kickers have troubled histories this year. Actually, like both of these teams have been having a lot of trouble with kickers this year. And with the Rams side, Maher was the kicker to begin the season, and then they replaced him, and then they had to bring him back in. And then on the Detroit side, what wasn't it, like Patterson or something? And they had Patterson, and then he missed like two extra points in a row, and then they made Badgley the starter. but I think Badgley's struggled a little bit too. I think I would lean towards Demarcus Robinson, like just based on what we've seen out of him recently. Look at these targets that he's getting. He got 10 targets in week 17, 6 targets the week before that. You look at week 14, he had 10 targets again. He's just been on fire since about week 13. He's been getting 5+ targets every week. Demarcus Robinson, I think if we're having Stafford and the captain, I think we want to have at least 2 receivers with him. So I would kind of lean, if it was me doing this lineup, I'd lean towards Robinson. And if you wanted to do a kicker, I think you just go with whatever team you want to win in your build. So if you wanted this to be a Rams build, maybe Mara would be the better option. Okay. But then we also have defenses too, if we wanted to use one of those guys. But what would your preference be there, Spread?
At first I was thinking a kicker, but I think that you sold me. I'm ready to put Demarcus Robinson in.
Cool. Yeah, I like him too. So I mean that would round out this lineup. I mean that's a really good build for a Matthew Stafford lineup. We're fading Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously, but he might have a lot of attention on him if he's the only weapon out there. And this is one of the advantages that I think that the Rams have in this game is that if LaPorta is out, then it's going to be Amon-Ra, the running backs, and an inconsistent Jameson Williams. And I think that's a big edge for the Rams, who have Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Kyren Williams, and then they got Demarcus Robinson, who's been chipping in as well. So they're pretty stacked on their offense versus where the Lions are at right now.
Right.
But let's clear this out. Let's try maybe something a little bit different, Spread. I was playing around with this kind of idea when I found out about both Raymond and knowing that LaPorta is likely to be out. Like if we go with that matchup that Jameson Williams has, and this is like a complete crapshoot, but based on the games that Jameson Williams has had recently, we've seen him be getting targeted a lot more. He had 6 targets versus Minnesota, 7 targets against Denver. And that seemed to be them actively trying to get him more involved in the game plan, knowing that he can be a big weapon for them. Obviously, they took him in a first round pick a couple years back. He was injured for most of his rookie season with recovering from an ACL tear, and then his second year he missed a good part of the season because of a gambling issue. So he missed the first 4 games of the season. It seems that Dan Campbell likes to slow roll these rookies into the offense anyways, except for Sam LaPorta. It took Amon-Ra St. Brown about half a season before he became implemented into the offense during his rookie year. Jameson Williams, total games that he's played in his career might be like a season's worth of games. The way that they've been integrating him more recently, I could see him having a decent role in this game, especially if the Rams aren't able to generate enough pressure on Goff, and Goff is going to have time to throw the ball. I think that's going to leave the Rams susceptible to a speedy guy like Jameson Williams. So I was thinking of having him in the captain, and if we have him in the captain spot, which of these Rams receivers do you like the most?
Rams receivers? I like Nacua over Kupp.
Nacua over Kupp. So let's get him in there.
But the cool thing is, guys, and you know what I noticed as I'm playing around doing this, Simon? Mm-hmm. If you really want to have some fun with this and you're a beginner, there's a $1. You can do 20 entries for $20. Right? Now, obviously, the payoff's not going to be huge, but let's say you're just trying to learn and you want the experience. I think it's great because in every single one we make, Simon, I'm probably going to mirror it and run and just swap them. Yeah. So for now, let's do Jameson and Nacua. But I'm saying this because if we have 10 lineups with Nacua in it, I would be fine just having 20 going off the builds and the scripts that we're creating, but just make sure you're shielding yourself. You know, if you're doing the $15 or $20 entry, maybe you don't want to do this, but at the 1 or the 3, I'm assuming, you know, you're going to be able to do it. And I think that's going to be fun. And for example, here, after we make this one with Jameson and Nacua, I'm going to go and just import it and then just swap out Nacua and Kupp.
Yeah, and that's a great thing that Spread mentioned too, because I know a lot of viewers are unfamiliar with Showdown, or they don't really haven't really gotten into it yet and figured out, you know, ways to build lineups and stuff. What Spread said is perfect, because if you're just getting started, you want to try to experiment a little bit. Those $1 contests where you have a 20 entry max are perfect for that type of stuff, because you're risking $20 and you're getting 20 lineups out of it, and nobody is going to have an edge over you in as far as being able to enter 150 lineups, because it's a 20 entry max. So you're going to be even with the field with, you know, like how many entries you have, and it's a low cost way to get into these Showdown contests.
Exactly. And the experience that you're going to gain is going to be so helpful, because maybe you're going to realize after you do this, let's say you do it for almost each playoff game, or you choose a couple games a weekend. By the end of the playoffs, you're going to say, oh, you know what? I'm running too many of the same scripts. I need to write more scripts. Or I'm running too many scripts. Boy, I really nailed it here, but then I screwed around with all these other scripts that I didn't really like, and I didn't have the different variations of my favorite script, right? So I think that we can't sit here on the stream and tell you what's going to work for you. You really just got to get in there and do it. So get in and do it at a low cost, and then you're going to feel more comfortable jumping up into the higher stakes, and you're going to know, hey, like for example, me on these 20 entries, I usually don't ever get to 20. Usually after about 11 or 12, I felt like we've gone over the scripts that Simon and I like. I feel like I have all the different angles I want to cover, and the last 8 would be kind of superfluous. And most likely they would just end up, you know, they're not going to help my profit as much as they would hurt when I am hitting. So this is a great way cheaply to figure out what style of Showdown player you are, because there's no right style.
Right.
Some people are going to do better at 20. Some people are going to write 3 scripts and write 3 different lineups, and that's going to be more profitable than them.
Right. And that's, you know, what Spread said there. Style of Showdown player is important, because some guys like to use, you know, quarterbacks in the captain. Some guys like to use the chalkier guys in the captain and try to figure out, you know, like the dumpster diving options. I like to kind of build a balanced lineup. Typically, I try to look for, you know, maybe some of these overlooked wide receivers who's going to have a low captain ownership. You'll see me a lot target these wide receivers with a lot of upside as my captains. And, you know, that's just how I like to build a lot, because a guy like Jameson Williams has all the upside in the world. And this is like the best opportunity to showcase his talent, because like I said, you know, if Goff is not going to be pressured, when he's not pressured, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. When he is under pressure, like he's like, forget about it. He's like the third worst or something like that. So the Rams are not generating a lot of pressure this season. So assuming that Goff is going to have a lot of time to make decisions and throw the ball, that's going to leave a fast receiver like Jameson Williams plenty of opportunity to get open. And the way that they've been targeting him recently, they've been giving him more targets recently. I see this being a total opportunity for Jameson Williams to kind of have his breakout game that we've been waiting on for about a year and a half. So, you know, like Jameson Williams to me makes a little bit of sense here at the captain, especially if we're looking for salary relief in a slate full of studs. If we're going to go with Puka Nacua, I think we can go with Amon-Ra St. Brown as well, like just with the salary savings that we're gonna get. If we do that, I think Amon-Ra is going to be probably the most targeted guy on the slate. Wouldn't you say so, Spread? Oop. Sorry, Spread. Didn't see you walked away there. I had my my DraftKings screen up, but I was asking, do you think that Amon-Ra St. Brown will probably be the most targeted guy out of any of these receivers on the slate for this game?
I think it's really hard to build a Lions script without him.
Yeah. So
you can keep him out of the captain slot, right? But unless you have a Rams blowout build, even then, it's really hard to get away with him. The only way I don't think that he gets there is an injury.
Yeah.
If he plays the majority of the snaps, I don't see how he doesn't pay off his price. So I think he has to be in there. So right now we have Jameson, Nacua, St. Brown, and I saw you just added Goff. That leaves 12-9. We have 64 left. Now, this gives us that interesting idea here. I might want to go high-low here with 12-9 left. What do you think?
I don't hate it. Like which high guy
go with Gibbs, you have 4K left. You have all the choices of you can grab a Higbee, Lions, Rams, Tutu Atwell, Khalif Raymond if he ends up playing, but I don't expect him to. So you land right in that range. So you're not just hoping that a blocking tight end makes a catch like you are if you end up with Brock Wright or Hopkins in lineup or Skowronek where, just a 4 or 5 wide gets loose. I kind of like putting Gibbs there. Right now we're at a 4-1. This feels like it's a Lions win. I'd probably fill it out here with the Lions defense, but you have plenty of options to do whatever you'd like to do. Not that crazy that Tutu Atwell makes one big catch and outscores the Lions defense, right?
No, not crazy. Not crazy at all. Like, especially if we have a build like this where it's heavily on the Detroit side, and we're thinking that the Rams are going to be doing a lot of passing to try to catch up. That's where like Atwell makes a lot of sense. Maybe the Demarcus Robinson's not working or something like that, or like they're having other issues in the passing game, but that would leave it wide open for Atwell. I also like what you said about the Lions D, because when the Lions D are able to actually produce pressure, I think at the third highest rate I saw, like the third highest rate in the league, and Matthew Stafford also struggles under pressure. So that would make a lot of sense if the Rams are in catch-up mode for a large. Let's say that the Lions offense is firing on all cylinders in this game. That would force Matthew Stafford to have to throw the ball a lot and throw a lot maybe uncomfortably if the defense is getting a lot of pressure on him, and that's going to leave him susceptible for interceptions, which we have seen plenty of in Matthew Stafford throughout his career. We've seen those games where he can kind of blow up, but like the Lions D would make a lot of sense in this build. At that point, it'd be like a 5-1 build. So like if you wanted to go a little bit different, try to get another one of the Rams in here. Maybe we get Cooper Kupp, like to go with that high-low that Spread was talking about. Let's see where that leaves us. It doesn't leave us with many options, so maybe Cooper Kupp's not the way to go there. If we wanted to go, let's see. We could also go Montgomery in that build too. I like Gibbs with Spread, but let's see what happens if we add Montgomery. That's going to give us another 2K.
If LaPorta was in, I would be so high on Montgomery.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like with him being out, especially over here on DK, that PPR is just going to make it too much for Gibbs. I think he's going to be too hard to turn down.
Yeah, I think you're right. One thing I will say, if you do add Montgomery though, that 2K is going to get you options like Demarcus Robinson, Josh Reynolds, and both those kickers that we were talking about. So Gibbs is definitely the better guy, but if you think that it's going to be the typical 50-50 50-50,
And if Montgomery gets all the goal line work, it can end up paying off.
Yeah.
That's fun. I'm going to do that right now. I just do a David Montgomery. So we finished that one off. I'm going to do a David Montgomery captain.
Okay. David Montgomery captain on this next one.
Yeah. So he's at 10-2 in the captain spot. Now we have a lot more fun, Simon.
Yep.
Because we have about 8K per player. I'm assuming this is going to be a Lions build. So let's grab Goff and St. Brown. But look at that start, Simon. I still have about 6,500 left per person.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, I'll run it back with, we'll say Stafford's moving the ball around instantly. So Stafford's my run back.
Okay.
And I got 4,800 for the last two slots. That means I can get one defense and one of the wide receivers that you really like in Reynolds and Williams, or a kicker.
Let's see. Would you go for the you think you go for the Lions defense in this build?
Yeah, I think let's play these simply for this showdown, Simon. Whatever team you have winning the build, use that kicker and use that defense.
Makes sense. Yep. So yeah, that sets you up in Robinson and Reynolds territory, just like Spread was talking about. And now this is what I love about this slate compared to the one I did last night, the Cleveland game. Like, it was impossible to build lineups in that Cleveland game, or at least for me. Like, I couldn't, get out of a mental block on trying to build those lineups. But with this game, we have like all these options in this cheaper range with like Montgomery and Williams that could be potential captains, and they have the upside to be captains. Even Robinson, I think, is one of those guys that you could potentially use as a captain, based on all the targets that he gets. But there's so many options like in this, under the 6K range, under these quarterbacks that we usually like to target for value. But we have so many options in this range that it makes it really, really easy to build lineups on this slate, I think, Spread. I think that this is going to be a much more fun slate to build lineups than that Cleveland game for sure.
I agree as well, because also I think the top 5 players all have about the same chance to be the top scorer on the slate. So It's not an obvious captain route. And then, you know how we would do it. We'd have to fade the obvious captain. Mm-hmm. But there's no obvious captain. To me, it makes it more fun because we can just build off our scripts and the players that we want. And we don't need to worry as much, I feel like, in this game, leveraging against the field as we might on teams where there's less options to build with, right? I'm trying to think of one of those teams that will be in the playoffs this weekend. Who's someone with no options at all? I mean, Cleveland, I guess you just talked about it, right? Because Cooper's such a bet, Amari Cooper is so much better. You look at Kansas City, right? Mahomes, Rice, and Kelsey are so far ahead of everyone else. On the other side, right? Tyreek Hill with Waddle out, so much better than every other option. Here, I think, like I said, you can dupe all these lineups, mix out Nacua and Kupp, and now that we're talking it through, make a similar argument for Gibbs and Montgomery, right? If you're playing these low entries, why not just, if we have one, just switch out Gibbs and Montgomery? Because I know we're saying right now we like Gibbs more. It's not that crazy that Montgomery gets 2-yard touchdowns and outscores them, and Gibbs has way more usage.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and Gibbs is a lot more expensive than Montgomery, and really the workload is split evenly, about as evenly as you can get. They're getting the same amount of touches. They're getting the same amount of goal line work. They're getting the same amount of yardage. So like it's a even split between Montgomery and Gibbs in this in this offense. And just the price discount that you get on Montgomery But in addition to that, everybody, like Gibbs is the shiny new toy. Everybody loves to get the shiny new toy. So you might be getting a ownership discount. I don't know for sure. Maybe people are like more wise to the evenness of the split, and their ownership will tilt more towards Montgomery. But there's probably more of an appeal to try to get Gibbs in your lineup than Montgomery, because Montgomery is kind of the stodgy, boring, grinder type of back versus Gibbs, who's the flashier back,
Exactly. And I think that if we didn't have the LaPorta usage, I'd be arguing all day that at these prices, getting Montgomery in there, because I trust him more in goal line work, and I think he's a better short yardage back. But with LaPorta out, this target's got to go somewhere, and I think you made a great point to start the show. Gibbs has been receiving a lot of the work on the snaps that LaPorta hasn't played.
Yeah, for sure. And now here's one thing that's interesting, Spread. If you're considering Gibbs based on his receiving game work, I'm looking at the Rams right now, and since week 7, the Rams defense is giving up the second least yards in the passing game to running backs. So they're only giving up 22 yards a game to running backs in the receiving game. So the Rams are really good at defending the pass versus running backs. So just keep that in mind. But that's a matchup thing with matchups. When a team decides to focus on a running back, even if it's a bad matchup, if he's getting enough targets,
it makes sense to me, because Aaron Donald's so good they can get pressure, which means they're not blitzing. And the huge running back games are usually against blitz happy teams, because then you need to get the screens and the short hitters involved to kind of keep these guys off their heels when they're rushing 6, 7 per play. With the Rams' ability to get pressure with 3 or 4, it makes sense that they'd have linebackers sitting in zones that would be able to scoop up those dump offs and those screen passes and snuff them out before they're able to become big games.
Yeah. So Spread, you want to try one more with maybe a Cooper Kupp captain? You want to see what
we can do? It, because we can't ignore the best play, right? We're liking Nacua, but statistically, Kupp has been one of the most efficient fantasy players we've seen over the past 3 years, and it's at historical levels. So we can't completely ignore the man. Let's start with the Cooper Kupp captain. Where we left, I'm re-pulling it up right now. I'm not able to just keep popping in the same lineup. How much do we have left there now?
Okay, 30. So if we put Cooper Kupp in the captain, it leaves us with 71.20 per person left.
Okay. So if you have Kupp, I think Stafford's a must.
Okay.
Right?
I like the price on Stafford too at 9,800.
I was surprised that him and Goff were so low.
Yeah, because recently the good quarterbacks that we've been seeing on these showdown slates have been 10K plus. So seeing these guys under 10K, especially Goff at 9,400, that's surprising.
And his total's 51.
Yeah.
It's not like they're playing in a snowstorm.
Right. It's almost like they want. Like DraftKings wants you to build for a shootout, I think, like when they're putting the guys in there, so that the guys that are playing for more, bucking expectations and playing for more of a lower scoring game, I think that they're going to have an easier path to maybe building a lineup. Let's see.
Unfortunately, with the start, Simon, we used half our salary. We need to be smart here. As we're filling this out. Maybe a little Rams defense here.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. If we do Rams defense, now we're at 7,400 for our last 3 people. We can afford to shop around. My initial instinct is to go Williams and then dumpster dive on the last 2. What do you think of that?
Kyren Williams?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kyren Williams makes a lot of sense in this build, because you got to figure with like a Cooper Kupp and Rams defense build, then they're not launching bombs, and I think like Kyren Williams is heavily involved in the game plan in a build like this. they're trying to prevent Stafford from getting pressure, and they're doing a good job with it with those short passes to Kupp, and then a lot of work for Williams. So I like that angle.
Tyler Higbee's a player that I like. I'm worried about his injury concerns. He's going to be out there. The thing is, will he be effective?
Let's see. I think it's a middling matchup as far as DraftKings points allowed per game. Both teams are allowing about, Rams are allowing about 13 DraftKings points a game to tight end, and Detroit is allowing about 12 DraftKings points a game to tight end. So both sides have about an equal opportunity with their tight ends. Obviously, if LaPorta was in, LaPorta would get like the slight edge given his injury situation and how much work he would be getting. But we're assuming that he's not going to be playing or that he's going to be really banged up. As far as Higbee, I don't know if he's getting the work I like, but he got 7 targets against the Giants in week 17 spread. So, I mean, he has shown that, he can get some targets. And
if it wasn't for the injury, I would love him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And given
in this particular build, I don't really necessarily like where I land when he's in here either.
Yeah. What about Robinson? Okay. I guess that might be too many Rams maybe. But I mean, if we put Robinson in there,
on this one, who's our run back?
Yeah, that's what we got to figure out now. Actually, before we get a guy like Robinson in, who do you like for run back? Maybe Gibbs.
Where's that leave us? 32. It's an expensive run back.
Yeah. Maybe
other options though. Maybe Jameson Williams.
Yeah, because if they're playing from behind, and they're having to throw the ball deep to try to catch
you end up around the same place as you did with Higbee in there.
Yeah, I think if you go with Williams, I think the best option there is probably Montgomery. And then at that point, you're just hoping that they get in scoring position a couple times in this game. Where
you like Williams Montgomery or Higbee Montgomery better on this little build?
Williams Montgomery for me.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's definitely where I would lean. But I mean, you can swap it out with Higbee Montgomery too. That's pretty easy to do too.
This is a fun slate, Simon. You can build all these fun scripts, and then you end up with a bunch of fun 2v2s.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd say for here, if you're watching along and you're going to build at home, choose 3 scripts, and you're going to be able to get like 15 lineups out of them. Yeah, I think there's 5 different ways to build for each style of script, right? You can do Lions blowout, you can do Rams blowout, and you can do 50-50 shootout that comes down to whoever has the ball last.
Yeah.
Right. I think you do have some fun with some 5-1s, some 4-2s, and then I don't hate a 3-3 here, right, Simon? If the final score, right, is 42-38 and one of the teams, has a 70-yard drive at the end, that wouldn't shock me here. I think a 3-3 could be profitable here. So this is a great slate for people to have fun with. And like I said, if you're where I'm at, it's a great slate to get in these lower contests and just continue to stack that experience.
You know what I like about this build too, Spread? Is with these last 2 flex spots, we can do any sort of combination of 2v2 with Williams, Montgomery, Robinson, and Reynolds. Those guys are really, really good guys to target, I think, given the situation with LaPorta. And, just given the situation, like Robinson's been getting a lot of targets recently. Reynolds will be getting a lot more work with LaPorta out. Jameson Williams benefits from LaPorta and Khalif Raymond potentially both being out. And on top of that, he's got that great matchup against wideouts. And then David Montgomery, is a cheaper piece of that Detroit running game. So there's a lot of guys in that price range that you have options for, if you want to take a direction like this and, maybe get that Rams passing game in there like that, I think you might even be able to swap out Kupp for Nacua and still have those options. Because look at that. You still have 6,600. So, this is a good spot to be in, I think, for going with one of you can go any direction. You can go expensive guy at captain. You can go cheap guy at captain. Any way that you go, they have enough of these options in that 5 to 6K range that are going to help you build the lineups that you want, I think.
Right. And with so many great options, I don't believe you need to worry about as being contrarian as you are, say, in that Browns Texans matchup, right? Where Cooper and Nico Collins just stand out as must-haves. And now you're sitting there, how do I get different with a bunch of guys that I didn't really want to play?
Yep. And they don't have any cheap guys in that game either that you could throw in captain. I mean, the cheapest legitimate captain options are like Noah Brown and David Njoku, and Njoku's pricey, so it's not really like you're not even really.
He's not even a cheap captain option. He's a different captain option.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I like this.
And if you choose Noah Brown, that's a guy coming off an injury. That's not a safe captain choice.
Yep, exactly.
You can hit the other 5 and regret it all.
Yep. So yeah, I mean this is much more fun. I think this is going to flow much better, and I think it's going to be. I like the way that building these lineups flows works too. I think with the game scripts that you can project. So I think this is one that would be a lot easier to win as well. Like if you hit the right script. So it's going to be this is going to be a good one.
All right. Well, I think we got some good lineups here, Simon.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for joining me, Spread. Where can they find you, and what do you got coming up?
At Spread Astaire on social media, and I'll continue to break down the NFL and the NBA. And Simon, I've been watching some tennis late at night. We might be jumping into some of these Australian Open contests here. I'm going to be ready. It just comes upon you so quick. What other sport do you do? I think maybe NASCAR, right, is the only other one where you just start with this huge event.
Pretty much, like Daytona, right? Daytona's the one that kicks it off.
Maybe college football, where they get some of those big matchups in week 1 or week 2. But in tennis, they hit the ground running. I've been watching in the evening. I've been taking some notes, and I'll be ready to beat that as well. So if you're interested in tennis betting and some tennis DFS, follow me at Spread Astaire.
Are you going to be doing shows on Nuke the House for tennis Spread or this year, or like what are you doing?
You know what? I might. For Australian Open, it's easy because it's the right time. The Australian Open, the games start around 4 or 5 Pacific, 8 to 9 Eastern, so I have all day.
Yeah.
U.S. Open and French Open, you get kind of hairy when the French Open's kind of okay because I can do them at the end. U.S. Open, they start at 8 a.m. my time, so you really got to be up early to do a show before the matches start.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll look into that as well. But even if I'm not doing shows, I'll be posting plays and retweeting other sharp cappers too. So you'll be getting some winning information at Spread Astaire on the timeline.
Nice. Yeah, and make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm about 30 subscribers off of hitting 400. And on top of that, make sure to like the video. If we get to 15 likes, I'll be able to put out a shorter video a little bit closer to lock. And then also make sure to sign up for an Underdog account using the promo code SEEK. That's SEEK. And they will match you up to $100 on your first deposit. And then you can DM me on Twitter at Pumacom, and I will send you my rankings. When you show me that you signed up using the promo code SEEK, I'll get you my rankings too. So appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to get on that Underdog, get those drafts in before the wild card round starts. They still have a few different contests, which are good to enter. They got a $5 one. I think they got a $3 one. The $50 one filled. That's the one that Spread and I did a show on the other day, but you can check that out on the YouTube channel as well. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.